more life would be to be a basketball player, would it?
Right. You know, I'm closer to the basket, so, you know.
You just have to go like that.
No, it's not that easy, especially when there's guys taller than me out there.
Is there?
Right, you play against 7-footers and 6'10s and...
But are they in the Lakers teams? Or
No. Like, we just played the Institute, and they had a couple guys, 6'10", 6'11", a couple 6'9s about my size.
Right, now you're Donnie Gibson and Jerome Lee. How are you?
Fine, how about yourself?
I'm really good. How long have you been playing for the Lakers?
This is my first season.
First season?
First season, yeah.
And first time in Australia?
No, this is actually my 3rd year in Australia. I played 2 years in New South Wales in my first season in Victoria.
Right, and when they... How did they find you and say, we'd like you to play for the Lakers?
Lakers. Well, like I said, I played those 2 years in New South Wales, and I was MVP of the state league, so I had some credentials behind me. And then I rode away to some teams, and the Lakers came back and contacted me, and they gave me a little tryout.
And did they find you a job while you're here?
Yeah.
Where are you working?
I'm working with commercial builders in Traralgon right now.
As a labourer?
As a labourer,
But
yeah.
you have this fabulous degree, don't you? Go on.
I have a social science degree from the University of California in Irvine, and I want to basically start getting into counseling.
What sort of counselling?
Children, yeah.
That's fabulous. We need people like that here.
Oh, really?
Yes. So we have to, if there's anybody out there on a day off, we've got Jerome for you who's wants to be counselling, and he's builder's labour at the moment, and even though that keeps him fit, we'd rather have your counselling.
Okay.
I think that's a waste. And what about you, Donnie? What do you do as a job?
Well, I work at Central Gippsland Hospital as a storeman.
Right, but you've got a degree as well.
A physical education degree, school teaching in all levels.
And who are you waiting on?
Melbourne Education Department.
Oh, we're a bit far away for the Melbourne Education Department. We might have some friends that can get you into...
Right, because I like dealing with kids and stuff like that, and just a matter of waiting on them to okay my degree and stuff.
Well, I hope that's soon. Now, you played in Canberra on the weekend, and you
Right.
played 3 games. Against who?
Well, the first game we played against the AIS, the Australian Institute of Sport. We lost to them, but we had a real good game. The second game, we beat the Canberra Gunners. Was it by about 11 and 12?
Yeah, about 14, I think.
And so we played really good as a team there. Flew down to Sydney and lost to the Sydney Comets.
But you did 3 games in 2.5 days,
Yeah.
which is pretty hard.
It's pretty
isn't it?
grueling, because you have to fly, and then you have to bus, and then you have to fly, and then you have to play between those times.
Yeah, and
so.
all those teams are sort of in their own home.
Right, they just
Yes.
wake up and go to the gym and play us, and we have to get there.
Right, now, what was I going to say? The standards of basketball here, are they as good as in America?
No, it's just like our university level. Here is like it's a different style. It's like we're playing close to between high school and state college.
Right, and you were saying more a social sort of thing rather than...
Right.
Because you train how many days a week?
2 times a week.
2 times a week, but if you're in America, you'd
It's
play...
every day
Every
for
day.
about 3 hours. Pretty intense.
It is, but
Yeah.
I think over there probably
It's a
there's
big sport.
a big sport,
Right.
and it takes money to be able to...
Right.
You're giving me a minute, only a minute? We better tell them about... See, it goes quick. doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not so bad. They were nervy. Now, listen, you're going to play where on Saturday? On this Saturday, the 27th.
Yeah, we're playing the Knox Raiders at the Traralgon Stadium at 8:30.
Right.
Yeah.
And how much are the tickets?
I believe they're about $6.
$6.
That's cheap,
Isn't
isn't
that
it?
cheap?
Yeah.
And I think basketball's getting sort of more into it now.
Yeah,
Because it's got more coverage on sports and everything.
It's
hasn't
grown
it?
so much since I've only been here 3 years. Donnie probably seen it snowball into a big sport over in Australia.
Yeah.
So
Well, listen, you're playing who? The Knox Raiders.
Knox Raiders.
Well, knock them out.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you Lakers.
All
And
right.
have...
I just hope everybody gets that Laker mania.
All right, Laker,
Okay.
mate. All right. Thank you. And the boys were lucky enough, you should have seen they got these little dilly bags, and we'll show you later. Because you can imagine how big they are. They look terrific. All right, we'll be back after the break, and thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. We have...
The Lakers are facing an uphill battle with only 1 win on the board from 5 matches.
Laker mania, a word that was supposed to herald a new era for the Gippsland Lakers, has had a quick death. The pre-season hysteria has subsided, and the Lakers are again looking down the barrel to another disappointing season. On Friday morning, the team leaves Gippsland and heads to Grafton, New South Wales, for the first of 3 tough away games on the road.
Well, the road trips are difficult because you're playing 3 games in 2.5 days. The whole team are geared up and ready to go. Hopefully we can come out with 3 wins. We all going to try to give our 110%, so hopefully we can pull them out.
But the chances of the Lakers winning all 3 seem unlikely. Gippsland is placed 10th on the ladder, and with Grafton, Newcastle and West Sydney all above them, it will need a mammoth effort by the Lakers to come back winners.
Sydney is tough from what we hear. They have a real good side, and it's always tough playing the team the 3rd game on that 3-game road trip. So we're going to have to go really out on the first 2 games and then come back hard on that last game. So hopefully, keep my fingers crossed, we could pull it off.
One of the main concerns for the team at the moment is the pressure both American imports, Gibson and Jerome Lee, have been placed under. And Gibson says that's one of the points coach Ken Flanagan is trying to emphasise to the players.
Trying to get the guys not to rely on me and Jerome a lot and to get the Australian side of it to pick up. If they can pick up, then it'll make me and Jerome's job a little easier. And a lot of teams can't double team me and Jerome all the time.
Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News.
Conference this season.
In what has become yet another disappointing season for the Lakers, there has at least been some encouraging news. With the departure at the end of last season of Eric Bailey, the man who arguably was the Gippsland Lakers, a talented replacement was crucial. And Donnie Gibson, after taking a few matches to settle in, is filling the role adequately.
Yeah, I feel great. The only thing is we're not winning. It's fine to see I'm doing good on the stats, but, you know, it's really disappointing that we're not winning at the moment.
After 10 games, Gibson's shot 351 points and has stood alone around the boards for the Lakers. An indication of his strength at the ring is the fact that he's also grabbed 63 offensive rebounds for the season. The 208-centimetre American says despite his personal success, he's disappointed with the Lakers' performances.
Well, I think we're about 1 player short. We need another big guy, say around 6'4" and up, to help out on rebounding and to take a little bit of pressure off of me in the inside, because most teams now are starting to double team me.
Gibson's partner in crime has been fellow American import Jerome Lee, who is also scoring consistently and leading the East Conference in assists, averaging 9.6 per game. However, despite contributions from Darren Pearce and captain Phil Shelley, the Lakers have still been unable to play 4 consistent quarters of basketball. But they have the chance to reverse the current trend on Friday night when they meet West Sydney at Traralgon Stadium. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News.
The locals took on one of Australia's top basketball teams, the North Melbourne Giants, and although beaten, were far from disgraced.
Lakers couldn't have picked a tougher opponent for their first practice game than the Giants. Lakers coach Ken Flanagan would have been reasonably happy to keep within about 50 points of the Giants, so he was more than pleased with the 108-136 defeat. Flanagan says the signs are very encouraging for the '89 season, which starts for the Gippsland team on May 19. On Saturday, new centre Donnie Gibson showed lots of fight against the Giants' big men, who will be the toughest opposition he'll face this season. And the other new import, Jerome Lee, played a superb game. He hit 17 points, had 14 assists, and showed a glimpse of his outstanding ball skills.
Oh yes, put the eye of the needle!
But it was the form of the homegrown talent which was most pleasing. New captain Phil Shelley had a tremendous game, shooting 25 points with 3 assists and 8 rebounds. Another young veteran, Darren Pearce, hit 18 points. Ken Flanagan says the signs are there that Lakers will have more character as a team this year. That character will be tested in the first true '89 hit-out. Lakers start the season with a tough 3-day tour to Sydney and Canberra on May 19, 20 and 21.
To go before heading off on their first road trip to Canberra and Sydney. All uniforms worn by the Lakers in 1988 went under the hammer last night. Steve Linnell again.
Last night's pre-season dinner was a good opportunity to meet the players and spend some of those hard-earned dollars. Up for grabs to the highest bidder were the uniforms worn last year by the Southern Cross Gippsland Lakers. Bidding was at times slow and proved more of an embarrassment to some of the players still with the team. But as expected, the uniform of former star Laker Eric Bailey was the most sought after, and following some spirited bidding, it eventually sold for the top price of $136.
135, make it 2.5, take a 1. 135. I don't want to see him with 2 sets. 135. One more and 135. First, second, third, 6 I've got, 136.
But there was also a serious note to last night's fundraiser, the presentation of new uniforms to the players. Phil Shelley has been named captain of the team and will no doubt rely heavily on imports Jerome Lee and the gentle giant Donnie Gibson. Coach Ken Flanagan is optimistic about the season, but knows the challenge lies ahead on Friday.
It's tough. It's a little bit like going to work for your first day. You don't know what's in front of you. You hope that you do well, and all you can do is give it everything you got and hope that the results are in your favour.
The Southern Cross Gippsland Lakers leave on Friday for their first game against the Institute of Sport in Canberra that night. They play again on Saturday before heading north to play Sydney City on Sunday afternoon.
Round of matches for the season. Returning from their first road trip with only 1 win, the Lakers will need to regroup before taking on Knox at the Traralgon Stadium next Saturday. Steve Linnell travelled with the team to Canberra and Sydney and filed this report.
The odds were against the Lakers from the outset. 3 games in 3 days and about 800 kilometres in between. The season's opener saw the Lakers journey to Canberra, taking on the cream of Australia's basketball youth at the Institute of Sport. Despite Marty Olsen scoring the first 2 points within as many seconds, the AIS soon began to assert its superiority. But the nation's finest didn't have it all their own way. They were helped to a large extent by the Lakers' poor shooting, highlighted by 206-centimetre import Donnie Gibson, who just couldn't find the hoop. Hampered by a number of inconsistent calls by the umpires, the Lakers struggled early, rebounds and turnovers not helping their cause. And it took a full 3 quarters before the Lakers were able to make up some ground, thanks mainly to American import Jerome Lee. Coming from 23 points down at the last change, a number of 3-pointers by the General saw the Lakers get to within 4 points with only 1 minute left on the clock. But the difference was too great, and the Lakers eventually lost 124 to 113. Game 2 on the road saw the Lakers take on the Canberra Gunners at the Palace Stadium. The game was a curtain raiser to the main NBL match between the Canberra Cannons and Illawarra. And in the final period, the Lakers played in front of a 4,000-strong crowd. The Lakers rose to the occasion, with captain Phil Shelley guiding his team to a comfortable 11-point lead at the first change. Shelley played an important role in the match, contributing a valuable 25 points before being fouled off. A return to form by Gibson also helped the Lakers to take a 2-point lead at half-time. Gibson finished the match with an impressive 35 points and 27 rebounds, highlighting his strength around the boards. There were some anxious moments in the third quarter when 180-centimetre guard Jerome Lee fell awkwardly on his ankle. Not taking any chances, Coach Ken Flanagan took him from the court. But he returned soon after, and his 17 points for the match greatly helped the Lakers take out their first game for the season by a comfortable 14 points, 109 to 95.
Yes, I think it was a good all-round win because the boys come off the bench. They done the job. They're settling in. It's a period that we've got early in the season to get the team to settle into a consistent pattern, which showed last night, I think.
But the Lakers left their consistency back in Canberra when they travelled to Sydney to take on the Sydney Comets at the Alexandria Stadium. They also must have left their shooting arms back in the capital as numerous scoring chances went begging. The Sydney Siders raced to a 12-point lead at quarter time. The Lakers came back late in the second quarter, but the Comets held on to a 9-point lead at the main change. A courageous third quarter saw the Lakers fight back to get within 2 points, but that's the closest they came all match. The Lakers' inability to rebound consistently and their ability to give away needless fouls certainly didn't help their cause. Jerome Lee's ankle didn't seem to bother him. He finished the game with 39 points, 22 of them in the first half. But when the hooter finally sounded, it was Sydney by 15 points, 124 to 109.
Demanding. But for the Southern Cross Gippsland Lakers, it's a necessary part of the South East Australian Basketball League. Steve Linnell looks back at the Lakers' first interstate tour this year and reports it wasn't all fun and games.
It was never going to be easy. Road trips are always fraught with danger for the away team. Travel, of course, is the biggest obstacle. The Lakers flew to Canberra on Friday for their first series of matches this season. 3 games in 3 days, it was certainly going to test the fitness and mental strength of the players, not to mention the team officials and loyal group of supporters who journeyed by bus to follow the fortunes of Gippsland's premier basketball team.
Oh, they're very difficult for Lakers and every other team, Steve. I mean, we left home at 11 o'clock Friday morning and we won't get home until 12 o'clock on Sunday night and play 3 games in the meantime. Very, very difficult.
The Lakers' first encounter was against the Australian Institute of Sport in Canberra. It was always going to be a tough match. Their opposition had the distinct advantage of training 7 days a week in the best sporting facilities in Australia. A magnificent last quarter saw the Lakers come from behind to get within 4 points of the AIS, thanks mainly to the efforts of 180-centimetre guard Jerome Lee, who was on fire from the three-point line. The Lakers eventually went down by 11 points, but the game provided coach Ken Flanagan the chance to iron out some of the early season problems.
It's early in the season. It's hard to get boys to settle into the pattern of play instead of taking the incentive and doing it one out. And I think last night showed that we're gradually getting the team pattern together.
Saturday, and the team arrived back at the stadium early afternoon for shooting practice, definitely a part of their play which suffered over the weekend. It also gave the coach some precious time to discuss facets of play that didn't go as planned the previous night. As Peter Dell says, the practice session was important because the team had no previous opportunity to look at any problems.
This is our first match of the year and we come away and we've got to play 3 in 3 days. We haven't had a chance to work on any of our faults that might have shown up in the first game, and that's by far the biggest problem.
From the gymnasium to the Palace Stadium, also situated at the Institute, and the Lakers take on the Canberra Gunners. The stadium alone was spectacular, with a seating capacity for more than 4,000 basketball fans, most of which was filled during the final quarter of the Lakers game, as their match with the Gunners was a curtain raiser to the main NBL fixture between the Canberra Cannons and Illawarra. But it wasn't all just basketball, with a number of young girls providing light entertainment for the crowd. It was something that the Lakers fans certainly weren't used to, but thoroughly enjoyed. The match against the Gunners provided the team with their first win for the season, and it appeared that at least some of the early season cobwebs had brushed off. But there was no time for the Lakers to enjoy the fruits of success. Sunday morning, and before many of the players had opened their eyes, let alone their mouths, it was onto the bus for the trip to Sydney.
On the road again, going places that I've never been, seeing things that I may never see again, and I can't wait to get on the road again.
It was a far cry from the Palace in Canberra to the Alexandria Stadium in Sydney. The match was also a far cry from the previous nights, and the Lakers went down to the Sydney Comets by 15 points.
And anytime you get on the road with the grueling road trip, you're just going to get tired. And towards the end of the road trip, we just all got tired, and I think we basically ran out of gas.
Naturally, the third one's a pretty hard game, just physically wise, and then it's probably one of the best teams for the weekend as well, which makes it even harder.
Any answer to the Raiders centre, Marty Fletcher, who shot 55 points for the match.
Like so often in the past, the Lakers let the match slip, a game that should never have left their grasp. An inspirational first period saw Gippsland nurture a 9-point lead, thanks mainly to some fine shooting by Phil Shelley and the steady combination of imports Jerome Lee and Donnie Gibson. However, it didn't go all the Lakers' way. Darren Pearce was taken from the court after only 2.5 minutes of play, having already incurred the wrath of the referees with 3 fouls to his name. During the second period, Raiders giant Marty Fletcher began scoring at will and too often was unopposed at the boards. Jerome Lee was finding it difficult to get one in the basket from outside the 3-point line, and Knox were 5-point leaders at the main break. This was stretched to 13 points only 3 minutes into the third quarter, and when Donnie Gibson left the court, the Lakers had no one around the boards to combat the skills of Fletcher and Tim McQuiston, who shared 29 rebounds between them. However, the Lakers fought back to be only 1 point down going into the final period. But that's when the wheels started to fall off. Gibson was fouled off, followed soon after by Pearce and the general, Jerome Lee. It was then left to the Lakers' second string team to try and steal the match, but they were unable to do so and eventually went down 113 to 108. For the Lakers, Gibson finished with 28 points, Phil Shelley 25 and Jerome Lee 24, including 6 3-pointers.
We're not going to the boards hard enough. We're not controlling the ball. The name of the game is to capitalise on every possession, and we're just throwing the ball away. We're not doing in a game what
3 road games in New South Wales. The Lakers are now placed 8th on the ladder, but face their biggest test on Friday when they take on the Australian Institute of Sport at the Traralgon Stadium.
It's been a season of mixed fortunes for the Lakers. After a less than impressive start, it seems they've finally picked up their game pattern and the team is beginning to click. At Grafton on Friday, the first of 3 road games, Gippsland combined well, utilising the strength around the boards of 206cm import Donnie Gibson to defeat Grafton by a massive 24 points. Gibson was unbeatable, shooting 47 points and was the key to the Lakers' win, 129 to 105. The following night at Newcastle, it was pressure basketball from the outset. The Lakers led by 8 points at half-time before Newcastle hit back in the third term, and at one stage the Hunters were leading by 10 points. However, the Lakers rallied and were able to snatch back the lead and eventually finish comfortable 14-point winners, 125 to 111.
The team concept, the game plan, staying with the game plan even when the going was tough, got us through both the games at Grafton and Newcastle. Sydney yesterday, we lost a little bit of composure and we lost our commitment in defence.
In the final game against West Sydney, the Lakers were in with a good chance of coming home from the road trip with 3 wins. However, when Jerome Lee was fouled out of the game in the second term, the wheels fell off and Gippsland went down by 9 points. As a sidelight to their success, coach Ken Flanagan will now have his beard shaved by the players tomorrow night. In a way, he was thankful the Lakers went down in the final game, otherwise he would have been sporting a mohawk haircut as well. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross.
Flanagan Stadium, the amiable coach lost his beard, all because of a bet made before last weekend's successful road trip.
Prior to the weekend's road trip, which saw the Lakers play 3 games in 2.5 days, the team was suffering a morale problem and couldn't shake it. It seems once again this year, Lakers have the talent, but simply haven't been able to put together 4 quarters of basketball. As a result, coach Ken Flanagan felt the team needed an incentive to win. So rashly, he said he would take off his beard if the team won 2 games and sport a mohawk haircut if it won all 3. It worked, and last night at Traralgon, club president Ian Wright, cutthroat razor in hand, proceeded to give Flanagan a facelift, much to the delight of the team members anxiously watching from the sidelines. The Lakers excelled on the weekend, defeating Grafton on Friday and Newcastle on Saturday, before going down to West Sydney in their final match. On Friday, the Lakers clashed with the Australian Institute of Sport at Traralgon Stadium. The AIS won the last encounter against Gippsland in Canberra 4 weeks ago, and are currently placed 3rd on the ladder. However, with a new-look coach and rejuvenated enthusiasm, the Lakers are certainly in with a chance. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network.
Import Donnie Gibson, the Lakers couldn't recover from a slow start.
After a pre-season recruiting campaign, the Gippsland Lakers promised a lot, but so far have delivered little. Only 9 games into the South East Australian Basketball League, the Lakers have a win-loss record of 3-6. Friday's home game got off to a high-scoring start, but unfortunately, the Australian Institute team was mostly responsible. On the road for the first time this year, the students showed they can play a powerful offensive style and score freely. The Lakers' defence battled to stop the Institute from opening a handy 13-point break at half-time. Lanky American Donnie Gibson led the Lakers' revival in the second half. He turned in another consistent game, shooting a staggering 42 points. However, at the other end of the court, the Lakers couldn't stop young star Brett Maher, who finished the game with 29 points. His dominance around the court allowed his team to cruise to a comfortable 10-point victory. Other good players for the Lakers were Jerome Lee and Darren Pearce, who each shot 26 points. The Gippsland Lakers will now take on Kilsyth next weekend. Michael Amor, Southern Cross Network News.
Suffering their most disappointing loss yet. The Lakers went down by 6 points to 11th placed Bayside and now have little hope of reaching the finals.
Saturday night's loss to Bayside has left the Lakers wondering what's gone wrong this season. They have an unenviable record of winning only 3 out of 10 games and have little chance of picking themselves up and becoming a threat to top sides. On Saturday, the Lakers started well, scoring consistently early, but also fouling heavily. Bayside kept itself in the game with some fine control and disciplined play. The Lakers held an 8-point lead going into the final term. However, 3 players fouled out when Bayside attacked, playing aggressive offence to easily outscore the Lakers and run home 6-point winners. Final scores, 134 to 128. For the Lakers, American import Donnie Gibson fired home 44 points, with Darren Pearce shooting 27 and captain Phil Shelley throwing 15. The Lakers now have 4 consecutive home games, beginning on Saturday when they take
going down to the powerful Bulleen combination by 11 points. The Lakers have now dropped to 11th place on the ladder, with virtually no hope of reaching the finals.
Bulleen, sitting comfortably on top of the league ladder undefeated, was always going to be a tough nut to crack. The Lakers were indeed the underdogs and never really looked like shaking the tag. In front of yet another large crowd at Traralgon Stadium, Bulleen, as it had done so often this season, jumped to a handy lead early in the game. And from there, the Boomers were never really headed. But perhaps for the first time this season, the Lakers ironed out some of the problems which have tarnished their performances this year. Over recent weeks, the Lakers have fouled heavily early in their games, but this wasn't the case on Saturday. The Lakers know it's always difficult to play catch-up basketball, and when the Boomers' lead had stretched to 26 points at the start of the final quarter, the home side was looking down the barrel of defeat. But to their credit, they regrouped, and thanks yet again to American import Donnie Gibson, who shot 46 points for the match, the Lakers put in a creditable final period. But resilience wasn't enough, and Bulleen eventually won the match by 11 points. The Lakers' next game is against West Sydney at Traralgon Stadium on Friday.
The Lakers emerged from the basketball wilderness to get within 3 points of the second-placed West Sydney Bruins.
In what has been nothing short of a frustrating season for the Lakers, Friday night's game at least provided their supporters with something to cheer about. In the Lakers' closest encounter yet this season, they edged to an early lead and were in front at the first and second breaks. This season, Lakers have failed to win a match at Traralgon Stadium, all 3 victories coming from road matches. However, Friday night's clash kept supporters on the edge of their seats as the West Sydney Bruins fought back in the third quarter to take a slight lead going into the final period. Sitting an uncomfortable second last on the ladder, Gippsland was given little chance of winning prior to the match. The final period was close, and with only 30 seconds remaining on the clock, the scoreline was all tied up at 106 apiece. Inexperience under pressure cost the Lakers the game, as they had several opportunities to seal the match. However, the Bruins gained control of the ball in the dying seconds and scored, with Lakers going down by only 3 points. John White, Southern Cross Network News.
4 sides the Kilsyth Cobras by 15 points.
Kilsyth Cobras had every reason to be confident about a trip to Gippsland. After all, they were safe in the top 4, and the Lakers have been languishing near the bottom of the table. The only problem was Kilsyth forgot to tell the Gippslanders. In front of their home crowd, the Lakers, led once again by Donnie Gibson, turned on their best display for ages. At the first change, only a point separated the teams. But any plans Kilsyth had for a percentage booster really went out the window in the second quarter. Lakers played some great basketball in this term to lead by 12 points at half-time. In the third quarter, they went on with it, and at the last change had opened up a handy 19-point lead. In the last, it appeared Lakers might be overrun by Cobras, who are renowned for their strong finishes. The Lakers' lead was quickly cut to single figures, but to their credit, the locals battled through the laps with some excellent leadership from captain Phil Shelley and Gibson. At the final bell, Lakers had caused the upset of the round, winning 129 to 114. Gibson again dominated with 44 points and Shelley hit 23. Darren Pearce was another happy man after the win. He played much of the game on brother Chris, who went to the Cobras from Lakers. Chris managed 18 points for Kilsyth, but Darren hit 25 and certainly had the last laugh. Ian Needham, Southern Cross Network News.
Leaves them only 3 games outside the 4.
It's been a season of mixed fortunes for the Lakers. A slow start saw them plummet to the bottom end of the table, placing the team under enormous pressure. However, to their credit, they've regrouped and the early season cobwebs have been brushed aside. In May, Lakers defeated Canberra, and with Gunners' win-loss record standing at 111, the Lakers were again favourites going into Friday's match. However, Canberra showed plenty of fight, and aided by sloppy passing from the Lakers, the Gunners began a well-rehearsed goal spree. However, determination and the large Gippsland crowd helped the Lakers to a 1-point lead at half-time. Early in the second half, neither side could gain any real ascendancy, with the scores remaining tight right up until the final 3 minutes of the game. Foul trouble ended Canberra's hopes for a surprise victory, with 4 players forced to leave the game. Lakers then took control and finally ran out comfortable 8-point winners 128-120. Donnie Gibson again led the Lakers from the front and shot 35 points for the match. He was ably supported by Jerome Lee with 32 and Darren Pearce 27. The Lakers are now placed 9th on the ladder, 3 games outside the 4.
All we've got to do is just maintain a win record because all the teams above us that are fighting for the same spot have got to play each other. So they're going to knock each other around before they get there, and that 5th spot, 4th spot is going to be wide open.
John White, Southern Cross Network News.
164 to 122. In a game dominated by both teams' offence, Dandenong threw 49 points in the second term and 80 for the half, leaving the Lakers little chance of catching up. Lakers return to the Traralgon Stadium on Saturday to take on Bayside. The best star import, Jerome Lee, being sent off the court in the match against Bayside. Both Lee and Bayside's Andy Jacobson were benched by officials following the fiery first quarter incident and took no further part in the game.
Saturday night's clash was always going to be a tough encounter. The Lakers have struggled to find consistency all season, losing many vital matches they could have won. And the frustration seemed to reach boiling point against the Bayside Blues at the Traralgon Stadium. In a fiery start to the game, an incident involving American import Jerome Lee certainly gave the umpires something to think about. Bayside lost control of the ball after a fine turnover by the Lakers. However, it seems as though Bayside's close tagging provoked this ugly reaction. It's an incident rarely seen on basketball courts anywhere in Australia. Lee, along with fellow American import Donnie Gibson, has been instrumental in the Lakers' limited success this year. When contacted today, South East Australian Basketball League General Manager Ross Graham said the league won't be investigating the incident. He said the umpires had made no reports and the league won't act on video evidence alone. Both players took no further part in the game, which settled down after some more heated exchanges between players and the umpires. However, Bayside was seemingly unaffected by the incident and by half-time had taken a 10-point lead. Despite a number of Bayside's players fouling out of the match, the Lakers never recovered and went down to the Blues by 6 points, 121 to 115. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News.
After starting well, Lakers were quickly pegged back and were out of the game by three-quarter time. The final score was 128 to 107. Lakers are in 10th position with 5 rounds remaining. The skill
his homeland and become an Australian citizen. But for the lanky Yank, the decision to become a true blue Aussie was a difficult one.
Taking out citizenship is a big step in anyone's book, but Gippsland Lakers star Donnie Gibson sees it as the start of a new chapter in his basketball career. The 30-year-old has just re-signed a new contract with the Lakers, one that will see him playing at the Traralgon Stadium until 1994. Originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Gibson came here 7 years ago, but admits the decision to become naturalised was still a tough one.
It is, but, you know, I've been here for so long, well, 7 years now, 6 years in Adelaide and 1 year here. Well, I'm practically my home now. So it was all right decision.
Gibson's naturalisation means the Gippsland Lakers can now look for another American import to try and add some height to the team. It's believed some players, including Adelaide's Sol Johnson, have already been approached.
We needed a couple big guys. That'll help out the side a lot with another big American to fill in the forward or center spot.
This year, Gibson and fellow American Jerome Lee have carried the Lakers, and no doubt his decision to stay with the team will give Lakers more stability. Gippsland takes on Sydney City at the Traralgon Stadium tomorrow night. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News. While the crowd sat anxiously in the stands at centre court, inside the Lakers locker room, Donnie Gibson, the 206-centimetre centre from the United States, lined up for the most important shot of his life. In front of his teammates and Lakers officials, the 30-year-old swore allegiance to the flag and became an Australian citizen.
And that I will faithfully observe the laws of Australia and fulfill my duties as an Australian citizen.
Well done, Don. And congratulations.
But the smiles were quickly wiped from their faces once they fronted centre court, with the Sydney Comets taking a 7-point lead at half-time. In the third term, it was all Sydney, and the Comets raced away with the game, outscoring the Lakers 40 to 24 to hold a commanding lead heading into the final period. The Lakers know it's difficult playing catch-up basketball. They've been in the same situation on so many occasions this season. The Lakers continued to plug away, however, but they were never going to be any match for Sydney. Gibson celebrated his naturalisation with 40 points for the match. However, he lacked support from his teammates. Only Darren Pearce and Phil Shelley contributed to the Lakers' cause, shooting 25 points between them. And when the buzzer finally sounded, Sydney had crushed Gippsland 131 to 100.
Lakers have a chance to redeem themselves on Friday when they take on Newcastle at the Traralgon Stadium. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News.
This coming Friday night, September 1st, the Southern Cross Gippsland Lakers play Sydney City at Traralgon Stadium. The Lakers are out to avenge their first round defeat to the Comets, so this will be a rough and tough game.
Southern Cross Gippsland Lakers playing the ball game.
Featuring the 3GG All-Stars coached by Mike Harris versus 3TR All-Stars coached by Steve Murray. Tickets are available at the Bodyline Fitness Center, Fountain Flicks, MacArthur Shoes, and Traralgon Basketball Center. Be there! Game starts at 8:30. Traralgon Basketball Stadium this Saturday night, featuring the 3GG All-Stars coached by Mike Harris versus 3TR All-Stars coached by Steve Murray. Tickets are available at the Bodyline Fitness Center, Fountain Flicks, MacArthur Shoes, and Traralgon Basketball Center. Be there! Game starts at 8:30.
Half time, led by Donnie Gibson and skipper Phil Shelley, the Lakers applied the pressure in the third quarter. In a spectacular display of accuracy, Shelley scored an amazing 8 3-pointers for the match. With only 2 points separating the teams, the scene was set for an exciting final quarter. The crowd was treated to a superb display of pressure basketball. In the end, though, the home side proved too good, running out 3-point winners, 122 to 119. The win pushed the Lakers into 9th position, just above the Newcastle Hunters. Michael Amor, Southern Cross Network News.
Over Dandenong was sweet revenge, following a massive 40-point hiding handed out by the Rangers earlier in the season.
Saturday night's victory injected new life into the Gippsland Lakers. From the opening tip-off, Gippsland took control, and with Giant centre Donnie Gibson performing miracles around the basket, Lakers took a 6-point lead into the second quarter. Gibson was on fire, shooting 22 points in the first period. An even second term saw Dandenong fight back to get within 3 points, 63 to 60. The third quarter was all Gippsland as the Lakers kicked away from their opponents. Gibson's form around the boards continued throughout the match, and he eventually finished the game with a massive 58 points. With Gippsland running away with the game in the final term, the Rangers began to feel the pressure. By the final siren, it was Lakers 136 to Dandenong 116. Rob Lowe contributed 21 points for the Lakers, with Darren Pearce and Jerome Lee each snaring 12. Lakers travelled to Eltham on Wednesday for their final VBA promotion playoff. A win would virtually assure them a place in next season's competition. Michael Amor, Southern Cross Network News.
The final curtain fell with a 27-point win over Grafton, the club's 8th win for the season.
Friday night's clash against Grafton was the culmination of a long year for Lakers. After a promising pre-season, poor performances in the early rounds left them struggling to maintain contact with the leading clubs. But in the second half of the season, the ball started to roll Gippsland's way, and Friday night's impressive victory has given Lakers some hope of climbing up the ladder next season. Gippsland's superiority emerged from the very start, and the home team led for almost the entire game. It was an entertaining and high-scoring encounter as both teams tried to improve on their overall standings in the competition. Donnie Gibson, who has led Lakers from the front all season, was again in magical form around the boards and finished the match with a staggering 51 points. Darren Pearce with 19 and Jerome Lee 16 also shared the hard work for Lakers. At half-time, Gippsland led by 20 points and were never in any real danger of losing the match. And when the hooter finally sounded, Lakers had run out comfortable 27-point victors, 148 to 121. The win was Lakers' 8th for the season, equalling the club's record in the competition. Adding Gippsland's victory over Dandenong in the previous week and 2 wins in their VBA promotion playoff matches, Friday night's win gave the club its 4th consecutive victory, setting a new record. Lakers' chances of making the VBA for season 1990 will now rest in the hands of the selection committee, which meets tomorrow night in Melbourne. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network.
All-Star team. The announcement caps off a great year for the American import, who was instrumental in setting up a number of Lakers victories.
The 206-centimetre giant, in his first year with Lakers, proved to be Gippsland's most valuable player all season. His dominance around the boards and in the centre was highlighted by his individual statistics for the season. Shooting a massive 856 points at an average of 38.9 per game, Gibson finished third in the SEABL's top scorer awards. He averaged 16.4 rebounds per game to finish a narrow second behind Devonport's Dan Krebs, and he was named an SEABL East Conference All-Star.
Yeah, it was good. It comes back to not winning again. See, I like to win, and then it's nice to have good stats, and then the team's winning. You feel a lot more happy about it. But looking forward to next year. Give me some goals to shoot at next year.
But Gibson wasn't the only Laker to perform well in overall league statistics. Fellow American import Jerome Lee had the most assists in the league for the '89 season. Lee finished with a total of 214 at an average of 10.95 per game. While the imports certainly made an impact on the team this year, Lakers will no doubt be hoping to increase their 8th place on the SEABL ladder next season and perform well in the Victorian Basketball Association.
Oh, that'd be great, playing against some new faces, playing against some of the NBL teams. It'd be good. The guys are all pumped up and ready to play.
The VBA season is expected to hit off in February.
In combination, in one of the most entertaining matches ever held at the Traralgon Stadium, a gallant Lakers team was eventually outclassed by the experienced Latvians, going down by 19 points.
From the opening tip-off, the big clash began at a furious pace. To the surprise of many, Lakers bolted away in the opening seconds of the match, with Donnie Gibson and Jerome Lee combining in their usual fashion. The Latvians were always going to be a tough assignment for Lakers, as the team included a number of Olympic and European champions. But Lakers were far from disgraced. Latvia held a 5-point lead at half-time, with star forward Carlos Mušnieks showing unbelievable accuracy from the three-point line. In the end, Mušnieks finished with 57 points, including 9 three-pointers. He was well supported by Igor Smiglinieks, 15, and Alex Bondarenko, 14 points. It was a new-look Lakers with 3 recruits all vying for a place on next year's list, including American Steve Williams, who showed plenty of spring, finishing with 21 points, and Canberra's Stephen Grock, 13. Donnie Gibson worked hard to finish with 39 points, while General Jerome Lee capped off a fine game with 30 points, including 7 three-pointers. Latvia eventually won 136 to 117. It was a fighting effort by Lakers, as the Latvians are undefeated on their Australian tour after 9 games. While Williams, Grock and Gary Hartop found it difficult to adjust to Lakers' style of play, they certainly had an influence on the game and will be handy inclusions in Lakers' 1990 lineup. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News.
The Gippsland Lakes were a kaleidoscope of colour. The Commonwealth Games team continued to bask and decided to settle their newfound rivalry in court, the basketball court. The battle of the airwaves between 3TR and 3GG could see a sudden career change for DJs Steve Mummery and Mike Harris.
Ever since Radio 3TR relocated its offices to Traralgon, rivalry with opposing network 3GG has increased, so much so that the basketball court was the only venue the two networks could settle their differences. It was a game with a difference, with 3TR coach Steve Mummery recruiting the expertise of Lakers Darren Pearce, Steve Hurst, Bill Jones and Jerome Lee, former Lakers Sol Johnson and Dandenong's Derek Sanders, while Mike Harris's 3GG All-Stars relied on locals Donnie Gibson, Mark Van Dyke, Phil Shelley and imports New York guard Ronnie Ryer, Kilside's Tony Wilkinson and Carlos Kelly from Albury. While the antics of the players during the first half gave the crowd an insight into their personalities, play settled down in the second half. 3TR in the red stretched its lead in the third quarter with shots like this. But the 3GG boys in blue bounced back, assuring they weren't too far out of the game. Lakers' newest recruit Bill Jones showed promising form, dominating the scoreboard, with his right-hand man Jerome Lee running the fast breaks. But the game wasn't over until the coaches themselves took to the court, demonstrating just why they shouldn't leave their day job. Finally, Final score 3TR 135 points to 3GG 127. The game kept Gippsland Lakers in touch for their first State League attempt next week in Traralgon against Andrew Gazer's Melbourne Tigers. Celine Fernanda, Southern Cross Network News.
Backboard to replace the one that was smashed after a slam dunk by Melbourne Tiger Dave Simmons. The incident was part of an action-packed evening which kicked off the Southern Cross Gippsland Lakers 1990 campaign.
Basketball fans couldn't have asked for a better start to the 1990 season. Earlier reports indicated Australia's #1 basketballer Andrew Gaze wouldn't take to the court on Saturday night for the opening VBA clash against the Lakers. But Gaze did play and showed Gippslanders just why he's one of the best ball players in the country. One shot in particular will long live in the memories of those at the game. Only seconds before the half-time siren, Andrew Gaze offloaded a three-pointer from inside the Lakers' offensive half. The Tigers went into the break holding a 6-point lead, and during an even second half, the Tigers' overall strength carried them through to victory, but not before Dave Simmons cracked the backboard with a sensational slam dunk. Simmons finished the match with 27 points, providing great support for Gaze, who shot 38. For Lakers, Donnie Gibson once again led the way with 39 points, with Darren Pearce and Jerome Lee contributing 19, Phil Shelley 15, and new recruit Bill Jones 14. The final scoreline read Melbourne Tigers 111 to Lakers 100. Lakers return to Traralgon Stadium next Saturday for the big clash against Nunawading. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News.
Australian Basketball Association defeating Nunawading by 12 points. After going down to Melbourne Tigers in the opening round, Lakers proved their class, outplaying the Spectres in all 4 quarters to win 122 to 110.
After going down to the Melbourne Tigers in the opening Victorian Basketball Association match, Lakers were desperate for a win on Saturday night. Yet another huge crowd was in attendance, ready to urge Lakers on to their first victory for the season. Lakers began well and were able to control proceedings from the outset to lead by 4 points at quarter time. Jerome Lee, playing from the point guard position, showed exceptional skill in a best-on-court performance, finishing the match with 33 points. At half-time, Lakers had stretched their lead to 8 points and were never really in any danger. Donnie Gibson was his usual productive self, contributing 32 points, while captain Phil Shelley threw 19. At three-quarter time, Nunawading trailed by only 6 points and had the opportunity to reduce the lead and take out the match. However, they weren't up to the task, and Lakers pulled away to score a 12-point win, 122 to 110. Although patchy in places, Lakers can be well satisfied with their performance, and in particular, the performance of new American recruit Bill Jones, who played a steady game, shooting 15 points and gaining numerous rebounds and blocks. For Nunawading, Steve Della Vega, 34, and Tony Ronaldson, 26, were the top scorers. However, there's little time for Lakers to celebrate the win. They'll take to the court on Wednesday against Bayside before returning to Traralgon Stadium on Saturday to clash with Knox. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network.
Wins for the first time in the club's history. Lakers trounced Knox Raiders at Traralgon Stadium by 22 points in a low-scoring affair.
After a sluggish start to the match, which was dominated by both teams' defence, Lakers found the form that has carried them through to consecutive victories. While it wasn't a spectacular match, it was a hard-fought tactical affair, with Lakers again coming out on top. At half-time, Lakers had taken a 5-point lead after Knox at one stage led by 6 points during the second quarter. It was sweet revenge for Lakers as they drew away from their opposition in the second half after going down to Raiders twice last season. In the end, Gippsland recorded a 22-point victory, 85-63. For Lakers, Donnie Gibson again top-scored with 31 points and Bill Jones contributed 18. However, it was an explosive third quarter by Darren Pearce that really set up the victory. Pearce simply couldn't miss the basket and he finished the game with 22 points. Marty Fletcher, who last year shot 55 points in one match against Lakers, was totally shut out of the game on Saturday, having little impact on the Raiders' performance. The historic trifecta leaves Lakers with a 3-1 win-loss record. Gippsland now has a week's break before taking on Keilor at Traralgon Stadium on March 15. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross Network News.
It was billed as a make-or-break game for the Lakers if they were to have any chance of reaching the VBA semi-finals in their first season. Going into the match in third position, Gippsland needed to play a tight defensive game to shut out the Super Cats. Led by American imports Brian Vaughan and Darren Rowe and Australian players Shane Hill and John Dorge, the visitors were playing with great combination to go into the first break with a 25-point lead. From that point, the league leaders were never headed, despite a spirited second-half comeback from the Lakers. For Gippsland, Donnie Gibson made a solid return from injury with 30 points, while Bill Jones gave good support with 25. The Lakers now need to regroup before Wednesday's away game against Sandringham. And Lakers coach Ken Flanagan won't be forgetting the team's opening SEABL clash against the Bendigo Braves in Traralgon next Saturday night. Matthew Smith, Southern Cross Network.
Could count themselves a trifle unlucky. They shot the second highest score, 120 points, of all the teams in the competition, but still lost by 22 points. Bendigo Braves, led as usual by David Magic Johnson, hit a huge total of 142 points and showed why it's regarded as one of the top teams in the competition. For Lakers, Donnie Gibson played a lone hand, scoring a game high of 50 points, with the only real support coming from Bill Jones with 16 points. Lakers were hit late in the game with foul and injury problems. Jones, who'd racked up 3 fouls to half-time, eventually infringed once too often, and Jerome Lee was sidelined late in the game with an ankle injury. But coach Ken Flanagan says the real problem lay in defence. He predicted before the match that Lakers would have to play an exceptional defensive game to hold the Braves. But on the night, that didn't happen. Flanagan points out that Bendigo scored 10 points after being fouled. He says that angered him, but adds the experience of playing one of the top sides in the first round will stand his team in good stead. Lakers' next game's against Dandenong at Dandenong in what should be a win for the Gippsland side. That game will be played in 2 weeks after the Easter break. Ian Needham, Southern
Club at the start of this season has been often offered a position with National Basketball League club, the Westside Melbourne Saints.
Jones was offered a position on Westside's team this week after the departure of the Saints' American strongman Gary Vose. However, the decision on whether or not Jones will remain in Gippsland is now out of his hands. The ball rests in the court of the Lakers committee, which is believed to be negotiating a suitable financial package with Westside to compensate for Jones's loss. He admits his playing future now rests in the boardroom rather than on the court.
Yes, I put it that way, for sure, because I have been approached, and the team that approached me went through all the proper channels and everything, and I'd have to be pretty insane not to consider the offer and whatnot. So, yes, it's in the lap of the committee at the moment.
Jones came to Gippsland at the start of the season, having played with Adelaide and Newcastle in the NBL. He's added strength around the boards for Lakers, and while he hasn't scored as many points as he had hoped, he's been instrumental in a number of Lakers' forward drives. Jones says Westside's offer is one he can't refuse.
You can't spit at it, not at all. I mean, because the way I look at it is financial side of the package is very appealing, not to mention the competition that you're playing in. Well, I mean, any athlete wants to play in the top level of competition if possible, and so from those two standpoints, it's looking pretty good, as well as the other job opportunities that are possible in Melbourne just because of the size of the city.
Last night, Lakers were defeated by Broadmeadows 109-100 in their VBA clash. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross.
Basketball League club Westside Melbourne Saints had offered Jones a place on the team, but a $15,000 clearance fee proved to be a stumbling block.
Bill Jones was set to play with Westside after its star American import Gary Vose returned to the States. All that was required was negotiation of a suitable clearance fee between Lakers and Westside. While Lakers wouldn't divulge the amount, it's believed the Gippsland Ball Club was seeking a fee of $15,000 for Jones as compensation. But Westside, in need of a player for this weekend's round of NBL matches, opted to import another American after talks between the two clubs stalled. Westside's general manager, Andy Blycavs, said today the $15,000 asking price is excessive, but the club would have tried to negotiate a lesser figure if it had time. But Lakers treasurer Steve Van Newton says the clearance fee was reasonable.
Well, certainly we respect that Bill wanted to play National League. We understand that. We don't believe the fee that we set was unreasonable. It was a good starting point anyway, but the basic problem with Westside was that they weren't in a position to negotiate. Their pressures were too much for them.
But while it's believed Jones was disappointed, the club is relieved to maintain his services for the remainder of the season.
Oh, the club is exceptionally pleased with the situation. Yes, he's a player that we certainly want to stay with us, wanted to at all times.
Jones is expected to line up with Lakers against Dandenong on Friday. Steve Linnell, Southern Cross.
Into the 4 of the South East Australian Basketball League. Lakers trounced the Dandenong Rangers to record their 3rd victory over the club this season. Lakers' impressive win over Dandenong will give them a confidence boost as they prepare for their first road trip to Sydney on the weekend. Lakers haven't dropped a match in the SEABL since round 1 and were never troubled by Dandenong on Friday night. Lakers took a 12-point lead into the major break, with Darren Pearce and Bill Jones dominating the scoring with 17 each. Lakers held on to record a percentage-boosting win, 133-98. Lakers again sported silk yesterday for their VBA clash against Kilsyth. Once again, the home side took control of the match from the outset and was able to hold off all challenges from the opposition. Lakers led by 6 points at half-time before running out 13-point winners, 97-84.
Bayside by 14 points. But Lakers didn't have it all their own way. After a sluggish start, the home side regrouped to record its 6th consecutive victory.
A few flutters were going through the hearts of Lakers supporters at the half-time break after Bayside opened up a 14-point lead. It was supposed to be a walkover for the SEABL leaders, whose only loss this season is against Bendigo in the opening round. On Saturday at Traralgon Stadium, Lakers appeared complacent. Unable to rebound effectively, Bayside jumped the home team and looked the goods in the first half. But it was a rejuvenated Lakers who stormed back onto the court after the break. Led by the general Jerome Lee, Lakers swamped the hoop and it rained goals in the third-term blitz. Lee shot 22 points in that quarter, helping Lakers take a 5-point lead into the final term. Lakers' distinct height advantage was always going to be a telling factor, and the home side was too strong in the final analysis. For Lakers, Bill Jones scored 26 points, while Donnie Gibson contributed 25. But it was Jerome Lee's night, and he finished the match with 38, although he was fouled off late in the final quarter. In the end, it was Lakers 111 to the Blues 97. Lakers now journey to Ballarat on Wednesday to tackle the Miners in a VBA clash. The club's next home game in a match that could have gone either way, Lakers once again came from behind to clinch the points 119 to 114. Lakers have now extended their SEABL record to 8 wins and only 1 loss. That was against Bendigo in the season's opener. But since then, Gippsland has been undefeated in the competition, although Friday night's clash against Hobart could have resulted in the home club's 2nd defeat. The Hornets, on a 3-game road trip to Victoria, began well and showed they were going to be a tough nut to crack in the opening quarter. Gippsland steadied, but despite the ball-handling brilliance of Jerome Lee and the Lakers' tall timber of Bill Jones and Donnie Gibson, neither side was able to gain any real ascendancy. At the major break, Hobart led by 6 points. But once again, the half-time pep talk worked in Lakers' favour, and a rejuvenated lineup took to the court in the 3rd term. While the scoreline remained even, Lakers were beginning to show signs of superiority, and Jerome Lee was leading the way. By the final bell, Lee had posted a match-winning 40 points, and Lakers now remain on top of the SEABL ladder. Lakers travelled to Albert Park Stadium on Wednesday night for a VBA clash against Melbourne. The club returns to Traralgon on Saturday to tackle Albury-Wodonga. Meanwhile, in the CVIBL, the Hayfield Loggers defeated Mildura 98.
Game tomorrow when they play the unpredictable Knox Raiders. The Lakers haven't lost to Knox in 1990, but any drop in form could open the door for an upset victory.
While the Lakers appear assured of a spot in the finals, their last 7 games are still vital matches. After last week's convincing win over Launceston, Gippsland has crept back into first place in the Eastern Division, ahead of arch-rivals Bendigo. However, a loss against Knox in Traralgon tomorrow night could see the Lakers again slip back.
The conference is so close. Every team is balanced out this year. We're at the top with 14 wins, and Bendigo is next with 13, and then it tapers off to 12 and 10 and on down the line. We just have to keep the pressure up by keep winning.
Gippsland goes into the clash at full strength with benchman Cameron Scammell back after a knee injury. The side will be hoping for a repeat of its form against Launceston to defeat the dogged Raiders. Donnie Gibson says recent doubts about Lakers' 1990 title chances are proving a big inspiration.
Reading the papers and some of the papers saying, oh, Gippsland's going to drop out, and it's really pumping them up rather than making them furious, you know, so we're ready to go.
Matthew Smith, Southern Cross Network News.
With an unconvincing 9-point win over Knox. After holding a 20-point lead at half-time, Lakers struggled to hold off a determined Raiders combination.
With first place under threat from Bendigo, Lakers hit the floor running, determined to show Knox they meant business. With Mr. Reliable Donnie Gibson dominating inside the circle, Gippsland opened up a narrow 5-point lead from the dogged Raiders in the first quarter. But it was in the second that the home side blew the Raiders away. With 3-point specialist Darren Pearce on fire and Gibson and Cameron Scammell also prominent, Lakers went to half-time holding a 56-36 lead and supposedly in control of the game. But after a quiet third stanza, the Never Say Die Knox side nearly stole the game in the last 12 minutes, with Bill Jones benched with 5 fouls and Darren Pearce again nursing an ankle injury. Lakers struggled to hold out the Raiders, who got to within 8 points with 4 minutes left. However, the home side showed its newfound maturity to take out the game 99-90. Gippsland is again at home next week.
With a fighting 4-point win over Devonport. After leading by 20 points at half-time, Lakers had to fight off a last-quarter comeback by the Taswegians.
With the competition rapidly approaching the business end of the season, Lakers can't afford to drop any matches. And despite the absence of 3-point shooter Darren Pearce through illness, the side quickly got into its stride against the dangerous Devonport Warriors. With Donnie Gibson finding space inside the circle and Jerome Lee dictating play, Gippsland took a 7-point lead to the first break. The second quarter belonged to Lakers' 2 rookies, Cameron Scammell and Michael Grant. The two showed maturity beyond their years, with a hot Grant leading the side to a 20-point half-time lead. But Devonport wasn't finished with yet, and with Americans Curtis Hunter and Bruno Congowan leading the way, fought back to get within 2 points of Lakers in the final moments. But the home side rallied to hold off the challenge and take out the match 129-125. While a number of players starred, Lakers' best was import Bill Jones, who shot 24 points and grabbed 22 rebounds in a magnificent display. Matthew Smith, Southern Cross Network.